Deevia Bhana is joining us right now, Professor in Gender and Childhood Sexuality at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, University here in South Africa. We're speaking about households in which nudity is approached in calm and non-sexual everyday ways. And Professor was highlighting just the different dynamics concerning this. And I'm very intrigued by that because, I've been raised in a very, I don't know if it's conservative, but yes, let me say conservative family. I've never seen my mother, my sister, my aunts, my uncles naked. They've never seen me naked. So there's always been that perimeter of the body. Just recently, Professor Bhana, I've had a wonderful experience that I had to kind of cleanse my dad after he passed away. And for the first time, I saw him naked and I saw his naked body. And it was very enjoyable to actually be in that cleansing process because I got to explore my father's naked body and in its fullness, and I could relate to it. And for the first time I saw myself in him. I'm like, his body's not so different from mine. So I guess that's the kind of things that you miss out on, that kind of you can relate in a way with that physical appearance that you have with a family member.
I really like your example because it is so suggestive of how our bodies are controlled, how our bodies are regulated by families, by society, broader society, by religion, by our cultural norms. And they shape how we view other bodies, including our own. So we develop a level of shame if our body doesn't match the so-called norm. It may not be white enough or yellow enough. It may not have the right shape and form in terms of the sexualized part. The breast might not be of the right form. And definitely in families that practice nudity, there is a level of learning from children and others that this is a normal part of being. Your example suggests that the body is a secret dimension of life. And it took you so many more years to see your father's own body. But this also doesn't mean that if you are raised in a family practicing nudity, that you yourself will take on those same norms. It could mean that you indeed believe the body should be nude and that being nude is a very natural part of life. But it could also mean that being exposed to that you develop your own inhibitions and would prefer not to. I would like to suggest here, it is about respect and about boundaries, about what you, as you grow up, believe to be important or suitable for you. Noting that the dominant way in which we live is indeed to control and regulate that body, and that many of us subscribe to that dominant ideal precisely because the nude body is a source of shame and stigma.
Professor, just because something is a particular way doesn't make it either good or bad. And we know that we also live in a very strange society, a very dangerous society. So even within the dynamics of a nude household, what behaviors would be considered inappropriate, even in a nudity accepting household?
And I think this is such an important question because it is a complex issue, especially in our country, in terms of child sexual abuse, in terms of sexual violence, in terms of women and girls' vulnerability to violation. And so I think it's important that adults who practice nudity ensure that there is communication about respect, about boundaries, and that children should be provided with that guidance in ways that they understand, such that understand that this naked body is not open to sexual abuse.
All right, I think we're struggling with that line right now, Professor. But, I'm also interested in terms of that notion of how do you protect the body in itself in such a violent and sexual violent country, right? Because many people don't see the perspective of the body being an autonomous sense of self, right? That's something that belongs to you, and no one should be able to take it away from it or even reinterpret it for you, what it means to you, right? So those kind of guidelines, those boundaries, how do you instill them in a family setting?
I guess it must be recognition of the broader issues that plague our country in terms of the violation of bodies, especially female bodies, queer bodies, and children's bodies,
Sure.
and girls' bodies in particular. But the issue here is that
We seem to be struggling with Professor Bhana's line there. I think we'll have to leave it there, even though it's so interesting, and we'd love to find out more on this conversation, especially because I think we've all been affected in very different ways. And now we realize that, hey, you know what? What's good in my house might not be good in yours, but also it's neither here nor there. It doesn't make it bad or good to be in that environment, especially if it is held in a very respectful manner and no abuses are taking place in that space.
Yeah, it's not a moral high ground.
No,
that's what we say there. What's your take? I was telling Balisa, giving her an example, and she was giving me an example of that we have friends that we had at our younger ages, and we grew in those households. And she was telling me that she has a friend where they were kind of open with their nudity, and she would visit her friend's place and see the father naked, see the mother, see the friends, see different family members, and it became normal for us. Like, okay, this is actually normal.
Yeah, this is what happens here, right?
Right, yeah.
But it's not. It doesn't look exactly like what happens at my house.
Yeah, and I told her that I wouldn't go back to that environment. I would be like, okay, you are my best friend, but that is something that makes me feel uncomfortable because I've had a friend and I lived with practically with their family all my life, but I've always lived with them because their lifestyle was the same as my family, that you never saw them walking around the house naked. It's not a principle that has a moral narrative behind it. It's more like the aesthetic of it. It makes me feel uncomfortable because I didn't grow up like understanding it.
Right, right. Well, let's hear your take, especially, where do you stand? Did you grow up in a nudity-free household, in a naked household, as we call it? What are your dynamics with nakedness now in your home, now that you're older? Also, on the opposite end, what are your experiences as well with nudity within the household? And how has it shaped your mindset around nakedness in general? +27 83 288 6684. We'd love to hear your views on this one. But first, let's get our latest sports news with Musibudi Makura.